The culture in Hong Kong is quite unique, I'd say. Uh, for example, like the teens or the students of Hong Kong, their life is pretty much school. Like they'll go to school in the morning and they'll be there all day until school ends, maybe around 3 or 4, and then at that time they'll go to these things that they call like a tutoring class, where they'll have more like just reviews on their subjects that they're learning in school or to do homework and whatnot, and they'll be there until late. Maybe some students I've heard are there till like 9, but maybe the typical student will probably be there till maybe 7 or 8. But they spend a lot of time there, and they have a very big focus on studying and just gaining knowledge and having a good academic background, because for them, if they can't if they go to school and they fail in finding a job, then it's hard for them to really have a good life that they'll classify as a good life. So it's very important for them they'll always try to be the best in their class, and they'll try to get the best jobs, because their social status is really classified by the job that they have. And so if they're like a accountant or a banker or someone of a businessman of high position, then they're really looked up to by people in the society. But if they really have a low job, or they don't really have a good education, then maybe they're not as looked up to, and it's hard for them to put an example for their kids too. So schooling is very important to them, and it's a lot more driven there than it is here in America, whereas people will drop out of school, or they will take their own paths, and maybe some of them won't go to college and whatnot, but it's just a lot different in contrast. And as a missionary, it's important to know that they very value their time, that when you meet with them, something that is really important is to really get to the point, to understand them, but to get to the point where you can just tell them, your purpose here as a missionary is to do this and this and this, and we don't want to take too much of your time, but we'd also like to acknowledge that this is a very special message that we'd like to share with you, and it's worth your time. And it's very important to understand that background, and to let them know that we're not here just to take away from their schooling or add to it, or somehow distract them from it, but rather to give them an opportunity to learn more, and to help them in the future, to give them a better understanding of what we're here for. So that's very important to, as part of the culture and as part of being a missionary, is to acknowledge that, especially on finding on the street and things like that. But another thing that I would say is, in relation to the culture, is that the families they're very close knit. Most of the families there are they really respect the family, and they'll have maybe 3 generations living in one house. They'll have the grandparents, the parents, and the kids, and they'll all be living in the same house. And that's not very it's very common to see that. And so it's very important as a missionary to acknowledge the fact that, as a missionary, like we really support families, and our church is really strong in the family, and we share this message, that helps the family grow and to strengthen rather than to destroy it. Because the view in Hong Kong is that missionaries, or our church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is a cult, and they'll say that, we do bad things, and we teach principles that aren't true, and the whole society, like as a whole, will most generally will say that we're not a good church. And so right from the start, we already have that disadvantage. So it's so important to be nice, and to have that outgoing personality, but to be able to help them feel comfortable with you, because they don't want to let you in to meet your family, or to meet their parents if they don't feel comfortable with you. So that's something that's very, I don't know, I thought was unique, that you really had to understand that each individual, they probably have a family that they really cared about, but at the same time that they really value the trust between you and them. So like if they don't really know you, they're not gonna want to just let you into their home. So it's really important to gain that trust, I'd say. Yeah. With members or with people that invite you over to their house to treat you to maybe a dinner or lunch or whatever the meal may be, it's very important to eat a lot or eat all the food that they give you at the minimum, because if you don't eat all their food, then they'll think it's like kind of like a hint or some sort that you don't like their food, and they just feel really disrespected about it. So I'd say a lot of time just if you're going to a member's house, to have a very empty stomach so you can eat all their food. Because I remember times in my mission where I've had companions who maybe were allergic to different foods, or they didn't eat certain foods, and so I'd have to eat it for them, and it wasn't ever fun. So eat all your food. That's a very important part of their culture, is to eat all the food.